Welcome to What's Your Story? My name is Charley Timmins, your host. Every week, I bring you a guest who's authentic and genuine with practical insights and ideas that you can put into use in your business immediately or your personal life. Today is no different. Today, my guest is Brad Tornberg. He's principal of E3 Consulting Partners. And that's dealing in the world of business technology, biz operations, in this world of what, digital transformation? Is that what they're calling it today, Brad?
Yes, the movement towards the cloud.
There we go. We're going to learn a little bit more about that. Maybe we can demystify some of it. But Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Charlie.
So,
pleasure to be here.
It's always good to get this out of the way right away. What is it that your company does? So the audience immediately knows.
We do business operations and technology consulting for companies of various sizes, mostly in the small and medium market space. We're concentrating on things like digital transformation and business process improvement because they kind of go hand in hand and work together.
So can you give the audience a sense of what a typical client looks like? I mean, you gave a pretty broad view, but so they could get a better sense of where you play. Are you consulting with the IBMs of the world? Where do you play?
It's mostly companies that are between anywhere from 5 to 10 million all the way up to 150 million. And the services that we really, the area that we play in is acting as their project manager, general contractor to help them solve whatever the problem is that we identify.
So are they generally fully automated by the time you get there?
We get various kinds of situations that we're in. Sometimes the client has nothing and they're in the process of looking for a solution, whether it's related to the way their operations are working or not working, and the same thing with technology. Sometimes we triage where they've had a situation, bad vendor, bad implementation, and our job is to kind of come in there and do this diagnosis, and then from the diagnosis, make some recommendations and suggestions through a workshop that we usually start all of our engagements with.
And the outcomes tend to be what for these folks?
Well, it depends on where they want to go with it. I mean, the way that we set up with our clients is we come in and initially, like I said, we define what our observations are and what the recommendations are for the next steps. And usually what that does is that uncovers a series of projects that we follow up with. And as we get to know the client more and more, they begin to trust us more and more, and that allows us to kind of expand our reach into other areas and identify things. We like to consider our clients for life.
So this is not like a shrink wrap program. This is tailored to them.
Absolutely. Every client is different. Sometimes we walk into a client and they're having issues with software. Other times, like more recently, a client that we have in New York, it's a transition between a family business from one member to the other member, and then all of the things that go along with that. Like, for example, people that have been in positions for 30 or 40 years with the parent, the child, the son or the daughter taking over the business wants to move in another direction. They've asked us to come in and look at the organization, make some suggestions and improvements, and identify skill sets and matches, and put people in the right swim lanes where they belong.
That's delicate, to say the least,
Always.
when you're dealing with all those personalities.
Always. It's about relationships, and what we find is by being honest with clients and not candy coating anything, and the sensitivity of people that have been in an organization for a long time, the technology where there's maybe a bottleneck with the person who's running it. A lot of times we have to kind of decompose the situation before we can kind of build it back the right way.
So, in preparing for the show, we had some conversations, and what became clear to me is that you're really passionate in helping these people. It is a business, you're there to make a profit, but there's some extra juice that you bring to it. Could you share with the audience?
We have a lot of empathy and passion for our clients.
Great words, great words.
And what that means to us is that we, the book that's out, right? Shut Up and Listen. We listen. And we listen to not only what they're saying, but what they're not saying. And we become very inquisitive and we ask a lot of questions. And what we're trying to do is kind of put a framework around what it is that we need to be focusing and concentrating on. And it's been very successful because this opening workshop that we usually have with our clients really gets them to break down the barriers and to begin to build that bridge of trust, which is crucial in when you start making suggestions without them saying, well, who are you and what do you know? You have to kind of educate. We don't sell, we educate. And what I found is that when you educate somebody on something, they become a client for life because you've taught them something that no one else has taught them, or you've shown them something that no one else has shown them. And people like to get that. As a business owner myself, anyone that could empower me more or educate me more is a valuable asset to me that I want to work with.
So it sounds to me like the questions you ask have to be very carefully thought out.
Correct. They can't, they have to be positive, and they have to have a reason for why you're asking that question, because a lot of times they're going to ask for clarification. They're going to say, why are you asking me that? Well, what we're trying to do is get to the root of X, Y, Z. And usually when they start to understand that, you can start to see their shoulders drop. They start up here, and then the shoulders begin to kind of drop as they feel more comfortable and relaxed. It has to be conversational, and it has to be belly to belly. At the end of the day, that's how we build relationships. People need to know you, like you, and trust you before they try your product or service, buy it, repeat it, and most importantly, refer you to other people, which is what you're looking for. Hey, this guy did a tremendous job. There's no gap between what he promised and what he delivered, and that's crucial in our industry.
Well, if that's your brand, and you've established that brand over time, you're in a great situation right now.
Yes.
During the course of an engagement, they can range over long periods of time, I assume.
Yes.
What are the changing roles that you play inside?
It's a good question. A lot of times what happens is when we get involved at the very beginning of the process and educate them and learn their business and learn their technologies and everything related to that, what inevitably ends up happening, like take for example a software selection. We're going to go through a whole selection process, and then the C-level executive or the business owner is going to turn and say, you know what, we spent a lot of time educating you on our business. How about you continue with us and take the lead as our internal project manager or project management office managing multiple efforts of those projects? Internally, correct.
And you're capable of doing that?
Well, 35 years in the industry, I started in the punch cards with programming. I think I can honestly say that I have seen the rise of the technology industry. Now I do a lot of consulting and a lot of work with Microsoft. So here I am again at my age, reinventing myself, putting myself in front of that market space and being able to educate my clients on what the next 20 years are going to look like and the directions that they should go in. And that's become a very hot topic today. Everyone hears the words digital transformation. I kind of laugh when I hear buzzwords all the time. But really what digital transformation is moving the things that you have on premise in your in-house systems and moving it into the cloud. But the question to always ask is why? I always ask the question, why? Why are you doing that? What's your goal at the end? We start out with, it's 10 years from now or 5 years from now and we're having coffee together, right? Tell me what happened. You like me. We've been working together for 5 years. What did I do? It's kind of like, you go back and you review what you've done to see what you did successfully with them. And we find that having that kind of open dialogue all the time leads us to this role of a general contractor, because now I'm a trusted advisor. We're trusted advisors. So I get calls all the time for things that aren't even in my sweet spot.
Like what?
PEO. Can you recommend a good PEO to manage my employees? Because I'm going a professional employer organization. It's basically they manage all of the human resources. Human resources, technology guy in business operations, and they're coming to me because I'm a trusted advisor. So what I've done over the last 35 years is built a network of key people in different market areas that can deliver at a very, very high level. And that's one of the reasons we're successful.
And these are people that you'll bring into your client because nobody knows them better than you.
Exactly right. And I can manage them in the situation, and I know what they can do. I know what their costs are. I know if the client can afford those costs. I know if the client is going to be comfortable with that person, because we have more than one in specific areas. But at the end of the day, the goal is to give the client what the client needs. The client requirements, we want to meet those requirements. It's all about gap. If the client's expectations are here and we deliver here, that's a big gap.
Oh, yeah.
Our goal is, if the client's expectations are here, is to deliver here.
What are the trends that you're seeing in this space in which you play? What are the things that your clients are inquiring about more and more?
The biggest thing that I'm hearing about is speed. The speed of a transaction. We need to get faster. We need to get more agile. We need to do things quicker. We need to do things more efficient. As you remember, I was telling you outside, right? 10 years ago, if somebody called you for support and you returned the phone call within the next day, 24 hours, your support was considered good. If you don't return a call in an hour today, that time horizon keeps shrinking. People expect things right away. So that's one trend. The other trend that we see a lot is that companies that have traditionally, especially in the service business, that have done a lot in terms of 1099 work and contractors, then those 1099 contractors are now being converted to W-2 employees and everything that goes with doing that. So what you're seeing is a lot of businesses rolling up, a lot of businesses being acquired, and then what happens is cultural change is a huge area. You know, you bring three companies together that have different cultures, and then you get a lot of this. You get a lot of infighting. So how do you manage that cultural change? How do you bring people through that the right way?
So what I'm hearing you tell me is that over time you have experience from the C-suite down to the shop floor and everything in between, and how all of that should work together, and how you can bring it together technologically, operationally, to work the way the client would like it to work.
You know, you brought up a good point, and I think one of our key differentiators is we can have conversations with the C-level executive, but I walk the shop floor and I walk the warehouse. And most of my clients, when they ask me for proposals and things, the first thing I say to them is, I can't do anything for you unless I could walk through your operation. Because that perspective comes from 35 years of seeing businesses, over 450 businesses in 35 or 40 different vertical markets, that allows me to bring in the best of breed kind of a solution when I see what those problems are, because it's not the first time I've seen them.
You hear this word reinvention a lot in business.
Yes, sir.
So how does that tie into what you do?
Well, personally, to start, I've reinvented myself. How have I done that? You know, from a technology point of view, a lot of the people that are my age and in my stage of life haven't improved on their technological skills. They're very good at what they knew 30 years ago, but that's like being a dinosaur. So what I've done, for example, is work with Microsoft, helping them roll out their new products that they have that are in the market space. And from that, learning the new technologies. So I look at it as, why did I join back with Microsoft to help them? Because to me, it's like going back to college. It's an education. And I've promised myself that I'll stick with this contract for at least 3 or 4 years, just like going through college education. But when I come back out on the other top, I'm back ahead of the industry again. The trick is to keep yourself relevant and to keep yourself on top of what's going on. I mean, I probably read close to 30 publications a day.
Unbelievable. Listen, we need to take a break because
Sure.
I have sponsors that are eager to tell their stories. So
Excellent.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with Brad. And I want to get into this whole idea of business fitness. It's a concept he ran by me earlier. I want to have him share it with you. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write. The ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Say we've got grit, and we'll take it as a compliment. Because it's our uncommon drive, our spark within, that brings us together and sets us apart. We are temple made. And when others take shortcuts, when others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
Add us on social media to watch bloopers, behind-the-scenes footage, previews, and more.
get ahead of yourself. Anyway, we're back. I'm here with Brad Tornberg. Brad is principal at E3 Consulting Partners, and we were talking about how he helps organizations transform themselves so they can be more competitive, more profitable, and more for the owner to have a legacy that they leave behind. Owners start businesses to make something happen for themselves, their family, for the community. He plays a role in making sure that happens. So before we went to break, I mentioned the word fitness, and during the break, you got all excited about that. So what's this business fitness concept that you just got excited about?
Well, one of the things that I think really helped me out in business a lot was I used to go to the gym, I still do, go to the gym at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And what I noticed was at that hour, the people that are there are business owners and the movers and shakers. And a lot of my business actually came from social interaction over the course of a period of time. And that was when I realized, I did some research and learned, like, for example, Harvard University had a study out that said men that are in physical fit shape tend to earn 7 to 9% more than people that aren't. And women earn 12 to 15% more over the course of their life.
What were those numbers?
7 to 9% for men, 12 to 15% for women.
And if we project that over a career, that's a hell of a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. So what happened was I was at one of my clients, and it was an operational kind of gig. And I noticed something, and this is what kind of led me to this whole concept of business fitness. What I learned was that the business fitness concept started.
You can talk about what you went through. That's
yeah,
okay.
the business fitness concept started with me. I've been working out now roughly 6 days a week. I take hot yoga 3-4 days a week. It keeps me from killing people. And I lift the other 3 days. And what I've noticed is a lot of people my age are not in that kind of shape. But what really brought my attention to it was I had the opportunity to work with a client, and he was extremely overweight, obese, and he was sitting there eating French fries and stuff. He was red in the face, and he was yelling and screaming, and his people were running around like chickens without a head. And I realized that the business owner is the brain of the business, and the way he communicates to the people in the organization is the central nervous system. Now, if you look at health, 100% of the body being in health is all systems functioning efficiently. Well, it's the same thing in a business. Business has a circulatory system, how cash flow moves through it, has a skeletal system, which is its infrastructure. It has the brain, which is the owner, and it has the central nervous system, which is how they communicate. And if any of that's blocked, right, they don't communicate correctly, right, all of those things, if their money isn't circulating, it's ill health. So I started writing a series of blog articles that were each of the systems of the human being versus the business. And that then turned into a book, which was called The Business Fitness Revolution, which is now becoming a program. In other words, working with my clients to make sure that they're at optimal health and that their business is at optimal health gives them success and happiness not only in business, but in life in general. So I went out and I got my certification in personal training as well, and this way I can kind of talk the talk. But what it's evolved to is we've been talking to hospitals and other places as a wellness program. We want to create something called Business Fitness University, which works with the business owner not only on the health of his business, but on improving his own health.
So how is that going to benefit healthcare institutions?
Well, the way that it works is, think about it, if I take my senior executives in your company and I get them in physical shape, their focus is going to be better, proven. The turnover of the organization is going to be significantly less. And the cost of medical care, because they're in shape, is going to come down.
I got it. All right.
So somehow we stumbled upon this concept of a wellness program. It wasn't my idea, but I'll go with it because I think it's a great idea. And now we've kind of weaved together this concept of business fitness with everything that we do.
That is a great metaphor. Do you have a story about a client or clients that may have embraced the idea?
Well, I had one client, and then we were talking to him about it. He was significantly out of shape. He came to one of our presentations, and he created a relationship with the person who he had doing the personal training. He's down about 65 pounds.
Wow.
He's 65 pounds, and he said that he's an attorney, and he said that his productive day is about 2.5 hours longer now because he has the endurance, building the endurance to concentrate and focus and do the kind of things that, you know, normally he'd get to the end of the day and he had no energy. So building the energy and building the thing. The idea is we want to make businesses happy. We want to make businesses successful. We want the entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. These are the things that make me happy. So it makes it easier to relate to the entrepreneurs as well as the C-level executives on the benefits of doing something like this. And it's easy to do.
Yeah, it's just, they need a structure.
Correct.
They
And that's
need
what
to
we
plan
offer
it.
is a structure.
Because
So
if we go back to the earlier part of our conversation, from your diagnosis that you do, that sort of see, what evolves from that is a structure. This is what needs to happen
Correct.
if I want to go from point A to point B.
And that's what we want to know. We want to know what's your eventual goal. Because how can you go down a path if you don't have a roadmap? And
Well,
that's what we're trying to do, is provide the roadmap with the plans, where the stops are, where the destinations are.
Was it Yogi Berra that said, if you, any road will take you there, or something like that? That quote, without a game plan, you're not going to get to where you have to go.
Correct. And that's our job. Our job is to make the company as efficient and profitable as possible.
I want to ask you a question that's a little bit off base.
Sure.
If you were to have dinner with two human beings, living or dead, which two would you choose to have dinner with?
No doubt the first one would be Walt Disney, because
Disney, really?
he was a visionary, and he was someone who never gave up on his dream. See, entrepreneurs never give up on their dream. And to me, if you look at the hardships that he went through and the way that he was raised, and that, you know, even the relationship he had with his brother, where his brother was like, no, I can't go back to the bank for more money. And he said, why can't you? He kept pushing and pushing and pushing. If you've got that vision and you've got that dream, you've got to go forward with it. And that's the reason I really respect Walt Disney. That and the fact that I love Disney World. So, you know, it kind of all plays in. And the second one would be Bill Gates. Even though I have a good relationship with a lot of people very high up in Microsoft, understanding the founder and what the founder's vision is and how he got there. I mean, you could say the same thing about Steve Jobs. You know, going against the grain. You can't do it. You'll never be successful. All the naysayers that are out there. Because in this world, what you find is when you're doing something and you're doing it right, the people aren't necessarily always there to help. Sometimes there's other things that are involved, that jealousy, or, you know, they don't want to see you succeed. So it's important that you maintain that path. And Bill Gates is a good example of that. And now if you look at his life later on in life, he's philanthropic. You know, to me, that's important too. When you get to that place where you're successful in life, you have to give back.
So now I'm going to ask you to take the idea of the visionary and the persistence and the stick-to-itiveness and tie that into what drives many of your clients.
My clients are all that way.
That's my sense.
I wouldn't work with someone who doesn't have the motivation or the drive to succeed or to change. Because change is just as important. As to be successful, you have to be willing to change. And narrow, closed-minded people are not necessarily the kind of audience that we want. We want people who want to embrace this. I got a phone call, someone found me on LinkedIn, of all places. And it wasn't an advertisement or anything. He said, you just fit what I need. Come in and help me fix my business. And that was kind of what it was, because looking at what our approach is and looking at the things that we've done, it becomes a fit. So that's what we're looking for. People that we fit well with, companies that we fit well with, companies that are emerging, companies that are in trouble, that need turnaround, that need work, that need someone to come in there and be that hard taskmaster to say, these are the things that you need to do, and if you want me to manage it and do that, I'm happy to do that, but I'm going to be a tough taskmaster.
Yeah, and that diagnostics phase that you're talking about, that's where the vision probably pops out. And you know right then and there, it isn't, are you good enough? Because you've proven that. The question is, does that company warrant having you there? Do they deserve you?
Yeah, I mean, as I've gotten older, I realize I bring a lot of value to the table to the
my
client,
point,
and
yeah.
they need to appreciate that going in there and accept. You know, it's a dialogue. They're going to tell you what they like, what they don't like. They're going to tell you where they want to be in 2 years, whether it's sell their business, retire, all of those things. You need to understand what their personal goals are so that you can align them with what their business goals are. I think that's crucial. And that's the one thing we always try to do, is to understand where they're coming from personality, because people come from different walks of life. And unless you understand that perception, you're never going to get it right on the other side.
We've come to the end of the show, unfortunately. I've enjoyed this conversation. I know that the audience has.
Great.
Because digital transformation, I now understand it a little bit better based on what you said. This is the time of the show, Brad, that you can speak into the camera and share something with the audience, make an ask, whatever you would like.
Sure. One of the things I'd like to offer to the audience is, because we're in a lot of different areas, operations and technology, is have us come in and talk to us. Let's hear what some of your problems are. Let's hear what some of your goals are. Let's hear what your aspirations are and see if we can help. And if we can't, we can't. And if we can, we'd be more than happy to take you through a series of workshops. That's always been our offer, a 2-day workshop where we come in, we take a look around, we give you a statement of findings, and we give you a summary of recommendations. And it's very deep and well thought, because usually those summary of recommendations lead to projects and other things that we may be involved in. And even if we're not, you're walking away with something that can be used to help you grow and be successful in your business.
So they're getting a state of the state at that moment.
State of the state, as well as an outsider's view of their organization, and these are the things that they should be paying close attention to, and more importantly, this is the order that they should be looked at.
How should they get in touch with you, Brad?
My email is, the short one is Brad, B-R-A-D, at letter E, number 3, help, H-E-L-P, help.com. Or my cell phone, feel free to call anytime. I always pick it up, and I've had it for 35 years, which means my clients are never angry. 732-735-6429.
Why don't you try that again?
732-735-6429, and I'd love the opportunity to show you what we have to do.
Again, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you,
on
Charlie.
the show.
Pleasure to be here.
And again, every week I bring you a guest like Brad, who's genuine, authentic, with some fantastic ideas and insights that can help your business or your personal life. So again, next week, until I see you next week, be well. Thanks for tuning in.